pasa, raza? Today we're going to talk to Clifton with his 1978 Ford Thunderbird. And man, this thing is OG as they come, so stay tuned. So guys, we have a real special treat over here with Clifton. Like I told you, you got to see a little glimpse of the car already, and we're going to do a walk around so you can really see this car, but it's amazing. So Clifton, man, dude, this is like the craziest thing ever, because so we live in like kind of a small town, if you will, out in like the middle of Kansas, and there happens to be a lowrider scene out here. And I know that when I moved out here, I saw Mike's car when he was out on Mass Street hitting switches, doing all that kind of stuff, and I thought, man, that's crazy, there's a lowrider. And then I saw you in this, and I mean, this isn't just like a lowrider, it's like straight OG 1970s like lowrider. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? So just tell me about yourself, man. Where are you from? Because I don't think you're from Lawrence, Kansas.
Right, no. Originally I'm from Espanola, New Mexico, which some may or may not know. Self-proclaimed lowrider capital of the world. I know you being from Cali. I'm not saying it's the birthplace.
Right.
I'm just saying that we're very proud of the lowrider heritage and the background that we grew up in.
Right.
Lowrider,
For sure.
you know.
Yeah.
It's a part of our soul, if you will. So, yeah, man. Being from New Mexico, you know, I left at a very young age. You know, schooling for my family has always been important, and I got the opportunity to, you know, talk about in the middle of nowhere, Kansas. I got to attend boarding school. You know, it used to be an old school, military school. It almost smack dab in the middle of Kansas. And I left about 15, did some schooling. From there, came here to Lawrence, Kansas. And, well, I remember when I first arrived here, you know, one of the deals graduating was I asked my parents if they could help me buy a car. A friend of mine, not a friend of mine, I'm sorry, my primo in Albuquerque, my friend was with me when we saw him. He had a 63 Impala. Big, and you know, everything he had was for sale for the right price.
Right.
And I was hoping, because we were primos,
Get you the primo hookup.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he did. You know, he helped me and my parents out and buy that car, and it was amazing. 63 two-door Impala, which is sitting under a tarp right outside there, you know, and that plays into a sad story later. Well, when I first came to Lawrence, this was back 98, 99, I was the only lowrider here. Me and the 63 needed paint. You know, all I had was some Supremes on it, or wire glues later on, and my chain steering wheel. You know what? I didn't care. I went out there, I cleaned that every day. I was more proud. You couldn't find a prouder Chicano lowrider anywhere.
Right.
And then about 2 months later, I saw a 64 Malibu, you know, lowrider pass me, and man, I'll tell you what, you know, like for as slow and low as we go, it's kind of hard to catch up with lowriders, you know. But anyway, yeah.
So that was TJ.
That was TJ.
Yeah.
That was TJ, which I believe it was your first interview. You know,
it was one of the first interviews with the tint guy.
The tint guy.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, life moves on. You know, I wanted to get the 63 done, and unfortunately, who I trusted to kind of get it done, you know, drugs ruins everything.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the person that was fixing up the car, you know, fell into the drug scene, and well, let's just say, you know, money was spent and nothing ever got done. I'm just lucky that I even got the car back. Yeah, I mean, it's in pieces, but that really did throw me for a number of things, you know, as far as not wanting to move further, you know, with lowriders.
Yeah.
In general.
Oh, just in general. Just kind of done with lowrider for a while.
Yeah, just because it got me really upset, and by really upset I mean angry. Angry to where I knew there was nothing legally I could do. So there was other avenues to pursue. And you know what? You know, coming from areas where, you know, there's crime and drugs and alternative ways of doing things, well, you know, I didn't want to jeopardize my freedom by doing something stupid. So, you know, and again, you know, forgive and forget, or you know, all the sayings that you want to come up with, and trying to be as good and as Catholic as I could be. Trying to turn my other cheek, it's hard.
It is hard.
It's extremely hard, and so I left it alone. But it left a hole in my soul, and two, anytime I would see or something come across, you know, low riding, I didn't want to deal with it. Because I didn't know how to process those emotions. Besides, the one way I knew how to process those emotions, and it was usually through my fists. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to go down that avenue. I've worked too hard, and this was at the time when I was going to the University of Kansas. You know, I had my couple of years with the Impala, and it was terrific. But after that, I let it go and just rediscovered it. As of late, the last 4 years, you know, and now that I've seen a couple of you guys drive in, you know, like all this past year, we've all connected.
We have. It's crazy. Like, you know, I think even some of the stuff that I've posted on Facebook or whatever, you know, us cruising in Lawrence, Kansas, people are just like, "Where's that at?" You know what I mean? Kind of. We're all transplants. I don't think we have one native lowrider from like Kansas, but like California, New Mexico, or whatever. So. It's really neat, but man, so that's awesome, you know, that you were able to, I think I just admire that, you know what I mean, especially for all those of us that came from rough neighborhoods and rough areas, that you were able to just say, man, I'm going to do the right thing, I'm going to like let it go and move forward, which, you know, takes a lot, man. That's a, you know, that's when you know that you're a real man, you know what I mean, because it's easier to do what second nature tells us to do, to, you know, tear somebody up because they did us wrong. So
sure, I could have went and got my pound of meat. You know, I could have done whatever it is to, you know, satisfy my feelings at that point. But I knew that, you know what, I'm going to take this different road, and just, it's going to be okay. I know it's going to be okay, you know, like, but it's a process. And then I started getting to a family, and well, I had to allocate any monies that would have gone into a lowrider into something else. And the other thing that I also kind of put lowriding in the closet, if you will, was, again, being in Lawrence, Kansas, you know, and no diss to Kansas City whatsoever. Just, I wouldn't get out to Kansas City, you know, like I had a few friends that lived out there, but I didn't know Kansas City. I know Kansas City is just right there. But, you know, back in the day, you know, like the lowrider scene, one, I wasn't a part of it. Two, you know, it wasn't what I was used to. So to me, it wasn't that big of a scene. And the shops and everything to go about, it wasn't available. And I didn't know. Remember, this was back in the day when we used to do, you know, have to go get the card catalog out and go borrow the book from the library. Right now with YouTube, you know, teaches you a whole bunch. The internet and everything else teaches you a whole lot. So, you know, back in the day, if I wanted to learn something or have something worked on, I would have to travel back home to get that taken care of. Which, well, you know, traveling it's not cheap.
But what you did was bring that piece of New Mexico to Kansas. So.
Oh yeah, like it's never left me. So now and you know, like you as well as many people that do know me know that, you know, I'm New Mexican. You know, straight up. That's it. You know, like somebody might say, "Oh, you're Mexican American." I'm New Mexican.
It's like your own thing. It's like a Texan.
They're Texans. You're Mexican. They're like, I'm a Chicano. I'm a New Mexican. That's it. You know, like as simple as that.
That's right. Well, man, I think that I love everything you've said. I know that people are dying to see this car, so let's take a little walk through the car, and then I'll ask you a few more questions if you don't mind.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. love your car, bro. It just reminds me of growing up in the Mission District back in San Francisco, and this is the kind of lowrider I remember seeing when I was a little boy. And I remember my mom yanking me and saying, "No, it's a Cholo car," you know. And here I am. So but it's neat. So tell me, brother, you don't have your traditional 13-inch wires, or not? I should say traditional. This is traditional, right? But you know, you're not rocking the 13 wires like everybody does. So why the Supremes, bro?
All right. Well, again, like right where you were saying, that kind of old school OG 70s look. That's the look, you know, I grew up with.
Right.
You know, like those are the cars I would see all the time.
Right.
You know, the true OGs from the back in the day. You know, I'm over here at Mocoso, you know,
Right.
you know, in elementary, and well, that's the style I like. Don't get me wrong, like, you know, I take, you know, center gold Dayton's, you know, 13s,
Right.
any day of the week, you
Right.
know, patterns and, you know,
Right.
4-pump hydraulic setup, so, you know, the whole nine.
Right.
But, you know, along with that comes, you know, the feria and the money it
Right.
takes to get that.
Yeah.
For me, I was just like, listen, I personally needed to get back into low riding.
Right.
And I needed to get there as quick as I possibly could.
Right.
Okay? And it all came to me because, again, as a child, seeing these lowriders cruising down in town, and where it had the greatest impact and the greatest effect on me was at school.
Right.
I remember I was one of the kids had to get on the school bus, and well, I remember some of these lowriders coming to pick up their kids, and I'm like, man, like
Yeah.
how cool was that? You'd see that, and here I am with children, and
Right.
no lowrider.
Right.
And here I'm. That's all.
You did it for the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes
I was
total
just
sense.
like,
That's the
here,
right thing to do.
here I am, like, where's the lowrider that I'm supposed to be picking up my children in, man? Like here, I was like, I couldn't wait to be doing that.
Right.
You know, I'm over here.
The responsible thing to do.
It is.
Right.
It truly is a responsible
Right.
thing to do.
Right.
So, you know, seeing the classics, you know, especially with this bad boy, wires fine.
Yeah.
You know, maybe some cross lace, but I've always been a fan of the Supremes.
They look
You know,
great.
the Supres. You know.
Yeah. With
So-
the 520s on top of that.
With the 520s, you know,
Damn,
try
boy.
to keep it as pimping as you can, if you
Yeah,
will,
I know,
as clean as you can.
I'm just saying, people that roll 520s, they're legit.
They're legit. Yeah, but man, I'll tell you what, when I saw this, you know, again, wanting to get into it right now, my kids are getting older,
Right.
you know, like funds are getting allocated to you know, bills, mortgage, everything else, school's activity.
Right.
And I keep seeing them fellas sit there year after year, and again, not knowing anybody in the community that's going to be able to work on it or pay, or really, it was my trust issues.
Right.
I just didn't trust
Right.
anybody, and I didn't have the knowledge base
Right.
or the time to work on it. So, I'm not kidding when I say probably about 10 years of scrolling Craigslist. This is before Facebook Marketplace.
Right.
You know, this is looking at the
That's an old
15 nickel.
school
Oh yeah,
stuff.
yeah. You know, just scrolling the countryside, looking for something reasonably priced. If it already had stuff, hydraulics installed, that would be great.
Right.
You know, it didn't necessarily have to be completely working,
Right.
but something that I could chew on, something I could at least learn, something that I could bring in, because now with YouTube and like, you know, going out and venturing out, asking questions, I thought it would be possible. And so, you know, I'm one of the people that went ahead and bought the lowrider and not built the lowrider. That's not saying that I'm not going to build the lowrider. It's just right now in the time of my life, you know, very little time. Now, don't get me wrong. I can spend less time with my family, less time with my kids,
Right.
less time doing work, and more time building. And I'm not trying to say that there's people that build these don't give any time. They do.
Right.
It's just right now I don't have that flexibility yet.
Yeah.
You know, I got very little ones. You know, they require a lot of my time.
As they
and
get older,
attention.
they can help you. That's what I did with my son. He's the one filming right now. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Terry. Yeah, well, so I bought it with it already installed. It's not perfect by any means.
It's a driver, but it's clean.
Yeah, it took me a while. Actually, I would be rolling on 13 Supremes because that's what I did do. Because I've always loved 13s. That's the smallest you can put. If there was 10s, I might put 10s.
Right. Well, you can get a 4th to Steve.
It's
12 or something, man.
So 12s.
Yeah.
No, but it was tough enough to already get the 14s.
Right.
And so I was just like, you know what? Because there was already some 14s that were just matched.
Yeah.
And so I got I had to wait. Getting Supremes isn't quite as easy as you would think. But after that, the car was cherry. And literally after about 10 years of searching, I found this car. My wife thought I was crazy, because it was Craigslist. You hear everything.
All you were trying to do is a responsible thing for the kids. Right.
Again, it comes back to the kids.
Right.
And, and actually a big part of it, and I'll admit this selfishly, and I know depression runs pretty significantly, in my family, and you could almost say it's in everybody's family. Depression's it's a big thing, and the one thing that would make me happy or chill me out was cruising.
It's crazy. It's funny because we interviewed Chino, and Chino said the same thing. He was kind of going through some depression stuff, and lowriding got him out of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's big time. I mean, I tried other stuff, like get a massage, you know what I mean? And I'm not really a big drinker.
It's not that kind of show, so.
It's not that kind of show.
We'll bring it back.
Yeah, different kind of massage. I try to do everything to kind of switch my mentality, if you will. When you grew up with something, like I'm already missing my New Mexican food.
Right.
I'm missing my New Mexican family. I'm missing out on a whole bunch of things.
But you have to have this.
And so, I was just like, you know what? I tried to remember back when I was able to release things or be calm or chill, if you will.
Right.
And it was when I was cruising around in my Impala. I was just like, the stress seemed to melt away, and I was just like, wow, you know what? I really miss cruising because I could get in my car, go for a cruise, listen to some oldies, and it was great. And I was just like, you know what? The time is now. Mm-hmm. So I sold my other car, used the money, put it into this, got this bad boy.
Well, tell me about real quick, man. Like, go with the OG theme. I know there's a story behind this steering wheel, but man, I love your steering wheel, and I especially like seeing when it's 110 degrees out here and you have to drive it, because I'm imagining it's nice and cool to the touch. So tell me about the steering wheel, man.
Hey man, growing up in New Mexico, be like, our hands, it's fine. We can handle the heat. That ain't no thing with a chicken wing on the screen.
Right, yeah. Do you ever drive with your finger in there just to see what happens?
I do.
Oh, do you? You're a brave man.
Yeah, that's my cruise control. Just keep it there.
Right.
No, again, 70s style. I mean, maybe it's old or maybe not. But the chain steering wheel, like what lowrider, that again. Back in the day.
Yeah, they are.
You chain steering wheel.
Yep.
The Supremes or the cross lace. So hard to get try to get a chain steering wheel nowadays.
Yeah. What size is that one?
This is an 8.
So this is I believe they're maybe not even legal. Because I see the 10s.
I don't know what you're talking about. This right here is completely
right. I get it. Because it's for the kids.
It's for the kids, and it's legit.
Right. Yeah.
Completely 100% legal.
Right.
So yes, it may seem
but
small.
It's actually a 10 that goes
right. It's a 10, not an 8.
Not an 8.
Yeah. If I could have got a smaller one, I would.
Right.
Okay. If I could get one of those little ones, I'm still out. So if anybody knows where I can get me a little
tiny.
I think they're a 5-inch.
Oh damn.
You let me know. But it's got to be a real OG one from back in the day.
Yeah.
Don't give
me.
But
this steering wheel's on your bike, right?
Yeah. So I bought this back in the day. I started out doing models, as every kid does. You graduate to doing a lowrider bike,
Yeah.
And of course, well, I don't have the lowrider, but you know, I'll be darned if I don't get a chain steering wheel to go on my lowrider bike.
Right.
And so when I was getting that upholstery done on the lowrider bike, because I couldn't actually afford somebody to weld and paint it, so I was like, oh,
It's creative. I love it.
I can just, I'll just pretend.
Yeah.
And, I asked the upholstery guy, which is a good family
Did
friend.
you buy like a roll of that? Because I remember seeing that at the Pulga in San Jose when I was a kid, like huge rolls of it.
For real?
Oh yeah.
Oh no, that's
You
awesome.
didn't buy it all the time.
No, I believe his name was Julian,
Yeah.
a friend of my dad's. He was a upholsterer.
Oh, okay.
And so I asked him, I was just like, hey, I'd really appreciate if you could, diamond tuck the sides, how everybody usually bondos and
Right.
and welds and paints. And he's like, yeah. I was like, can you do that, but with the diamond tuck upholsterer? And he's like, oh, yeah, I guess. I was like, whatever you could do, and he did.
That's nice, man.
When I saw the steering wheel,
Yeah.
not that one,
Right.
that one. I saw that one chilling. I was just like, oh man.
You put it on.
I asked him, I was just like, hey, is that for sale? He's like, sure. They sold it to me
Nice.
for about $80.
Well, I love it, man. It looks sweet. You also, I noticed you only have 2 switches, so
Yep.
before I even just talk about the switches themselves, let's look at your setup because you got a really unique setup. So you got a 2-pump setup. I see the accumulators up there for the front, which is cool. But the weird thing, right? And I remember seeing your setup for the first time. I'm like, where the heck are his batteries? Like, I couldn't even see them. And then you're like, they're right there. So you got 1 battery for pump, but I've never seen batteries like that. So tell me the story behind that, man.
So again, back to searching Craigslist for 10 years. The reason I hadn't bought anything because I didn't find anything that matched what was in my head and my style.
Right.
Now, the genius that came up with this,
Right.
I would love to shake his hand and thank him, because I didn't know batteries like this existed besides in my head.
Right.
I said, why do batteries have to be this shape? Why can't we get them, thinner?
Right.
There's got to be some type of solution. Those particular batteries, I believe, are backup battery for cell towers.
Right.
Obviously, back in the day,
Right.
we didn't have cell phones, so I understand now,
Right.
technology. So how he got a hold of them, not too sure, because they're extremely expensive batteries. Now, of course, these ones are probably used. They probably came out of that cell phone tower. I don't know how they came out of that cell phone tower.
Right.
I'm hoping maybe he just bought them at a swap meet.
Right. Right. That's like, serial numbers? What serial numbers?
I'm hoping that they're completely legit. Yeah, but I got the front pump here.
Yeah.
I got the back pump over there with the accumulators.
Mhm.
That way.
I said it backwards, didn't I?
Oh yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
all good. That way, with how heavy the front is, I don't really need
right.
it. But the back to keep that, pretty smooth.
keep
It
a
works
smooth
pretty well.
ride.
Yeah, it gives me a pretty smooth ride.
Right.
You could definitely tell the difference.
Yeah.
You can definitely tell the difference.
Well, and I love too, man. You're repping over here the Lowrider Bike Club. Of course, that's one of the clubs that I sponsor.
Yep.
And I have a passion too. So that brings me to the Lawrence Cruisers, man. So I've talked to a few guys on the interviews. The partnership we have with the PD and breaking the stereotypes. Just talk to us briefly a little bit about that.
Sure. That's awesome that you actually bring that up, being
Yeah.
that you got us all together, which kind of made all this partnership happen, which is great. For me, I've always, I got family that's in the that are police and everything like that. So I've never had issues. Sure, don't get me wrong. I may or may have not
Right.
been on one side of the fence or the other,
Right.
so I can see both sides,
Right.
if you will. And I thought, when you brought up the idea that you worked with, or it's not an idea, it's fact that you worked with the Olathe Police Department, you would do something here. I've been wanting to do that for years,
Right.
But one, I didn't have the lowrider to deal with that, and it wasn't at that time, it wasn't having to do with lowriders, it was having to do with photography. I wanted to branch out, and I wanted to say thank you back to others. Now, when you came back and you stepped up saying, hey, you know, I would like to do a partnership here. I was just like, this is great, because, you know, the cops, they've been getting shit on for quite some time, just as much as the lowrider community has been getting shit on forever. Now, don't get me wrong, each group has some bad seeds and bad apples, if you will. So, like, I get it. You know, there's a camp where, you know, the hell with the police, and there's a camp with the hell with these lowriders. So I can understand both those sides of view, but okay, I can just sit back, or I could try to be something greater than myself.
I think, you know, Nate said it when we were at a meeting, and I quoted him when I did his interview, where he said, you know, I believe the police officer we were talking to, he's like, oh man, they see us riding in our patrol cars and they stereotype us and assume that we're some sort of way. He said, welcome to our world, right? So, so there's that connection piece. And I know we did a car show, and we were able to collect some money for the kids, really. We actually collected a few $100 to give to a foundation that helps kids find, you know, mattresses and things of that nature that I had to miss because I was stuck in Las Vegas. You know, I worked the whole year. I was really stuck in Las Vegas.
Hey guys, I ain't gonna be able to make the show. I know that it went through a tremendous amount of work to get this started. No. And the show went off great. It was awesome, you know, that we were able to actually do something like that and team up with the cops and get to know them. You know, that way we can combat both stereotypes. There's the stereotypes with lowriders, there's stereotypes with cops, and actually work as a community together. You know, especially now that we're doing, you know, like the Cops of Coffee, you know, once a month.
Which I can't wait for the weather to get better.
You know, just communicating with each other. And now it's pretty cool because now here in Lawrence, you know, unlike TJ's had some negative experiences. And me,
you've had nothing but positive.
I've had nothing but well, actually, I tried to avoid the cops at all costs. You know, I've only been pulled over once. That was with the 63, and I've never been pulled over here in Lawrence again. With this, I still haven't got pulled over yet. But at the same time, like, I'm the person that is gonna wave at you.
Which is super important.
Someone rolls right next to me, I look right at them, and wait for them to look, because I know they want to look. And I'm gonna
Why
smile.
is this Cholo talking to me?
Hey, what's up? How you doing?
So, you know, I think that everything that we're doing is super important, and I think that you're really obviously breaking the stereotype and doing it right and doing it for the kids, which is amazing. But, you know, if you could go back, man, in a time machine, back in the day when you were 15 years old, 16 years old, what would you tell yourself back then, man?
Ooh, that's a good question. Probably two things. One, even though growing up in Espanol, you grow up, you know, kind of facing your fears, you know, like not to be scared of anything. There is that fear of not speaking up. You know, and what I mean is not speaking up when somebody's, you know, throwing their hands up or anything like that. I'm talking about in school. You know, we're so quiet. You know, it's that example where you know the nail that sticks up is the one that gets hammered down. And it's a bad way.
Gets the grease,
Yeah, and you know, that's be the squeaky wheel. Use your voice, because I was quiet growing up.
I have a hard time believing that.
Now it's just like I can go out and I can meet anybody. I can go out and talk to anybody. And if I don't know something, I can speak up and learn it, because no one. It was like I was invisible before. No one's going to take you serious. No one's going to help you because they don't know if you need help or not. And then the second thing is, man, what was the second thing?
It's what happens when you become an OG.
You're right, like try to write everything. One more thing. Try to remember. Try to write everything down. Is to not be. Man, that's a.
It'll come to you.
It'll come to me.
I'll put it on the comments later.
Comment down below. What am I thinking right now?
Well, I think what you said is important, man. I mean, you know, speaking up, raising your hand, you know, asking questions. I think we don't do that. I know that when I was in school, man, you know, I got in so much trouble just because I didn't know something. Like legit, like, hey, we're doing math and everybody's gonna get called to come up here to the board. I'm like, okay, I'm about to get in trouble real quick, so they can just kick me out of class because I'm not gonna, you know, say something and or ask a question or say anything. And I agree with you, man. You know, my journey's crazy. Like I literally was a high school dropout, and you know, now I have a master's degree, but it wasn't until I learned, you know, how to ask for help and do all that. So I think that's really great information for kids, man. And you know, I just want to thank you too, brother, for showing us this great car and bringing us into your home. And even though people don't realize it, but we're in Kansas and it's like minus like 30.
Yeah, it's cold.
It's freezing.
Yeah.
And you know, you were able to bring us in here and show us this car and keep the tradition going, man. So I do want to promise everybody that we're going to come back because we talked about your Impala and it's out there, and I want to show it. But you also have a really neat van, which I'm going to leave you with that because this dude has a van that actually touches the ground. So.
And I do remember.
He remembered.
I remember now.
All right.
The try not to let, you know, don't worry about what other people think of you. You know, like that. Again, you know, like now it just leads to so much depression and
right.
You know, like you care so much about what other people think of you, and half the time people are not even half the time. More than likely, people aren't even looking at you. They're too worried about themselves to deal with you or look at you.
Right.
And that does lead to people not doing things, you know, that they want to do because they're too afraid to, you know, they're gonna look this way, or oh, I look fat, I look short, I look tall, skinny, whatever. Right. You know, like I'm.
Why were you looking at me when you're saying all this?
Yeah, you know, like I didn't want to be like short
right,
and tall and fat. But yeah, you know, I can't wait for, you know, warmer weather. You know, maybe we can go for a cruise.
Oh, yeah.
You can check out. Yeah, again, kids. I got the, you know, the minivan. I got the 63 out there. Maybe by that time, you know, maybe some of this YouTube money can come in, and you can just sponsor.
Right.
You know,
yeah, I'm sure that'll happen. Yeah. And you know what, Clifton? Before I forget, because I have a coworker and friend who is in love with your car, and I told him I'd give him a shout out. So Nick Johnner.
Right on, Nick.
Nick. So he basically is the grumpiest, grouchiest guy I know, and talks crap about pretty much everything, whether it's blue or it's not blue, or even if it is, and then if I say it is, and he says it isn't. But the one thing he can't argue on is that your car is awesome. He's always saying it really is. So I told him I'd give him a shout out because he thinks your car's really cool. So
thank you, Nick. They're like, I know you know real when you see it.
Well, hey man, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you so much, man, for having us here. Appreciate you.
Yeah, appreciate you as well. Thank you for coming.
Absolutely. So guys, stay tuned because we'll have another episode up pretty soon.